stop whatever you're doing for a second, because if even half of what's being whispered about the Fujifilm X-Pro 4 is true, this could be the most important camera release Fujifilm has made in years. Not for pixel peepers, not for spec chasers, but for real photographers. And that's exactly why the X-Pro 4 isn't just another camera. It's a statement, a comeback, a quiet rebellion against the world of oversized bodies, endless menus, and cameras that feel like computers with lenses. The X-Pro line was always different. It wasn't made to impress strangers on a spec sheet. It was made to disappear in your hands so your eyes could stay on the world. And that's what made it legendary. But here's the thing. Since the X-Pro 3 came out, the market has changed completely. Content creators exploded. Full-frame marketing got louder. And smartphone cameras got insanely good. So Fujifilm didn't have the option to simply update the X-Pro. They either reinvented or risk losing the entire soul of the series. And now, in 2026, Fujifilm is rumored to finally be ready with what might be their most refined street and documentary camera ever. The Fujifilm X-Pro 4. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, "Oh great, more camera rumors," hear me out, because this camera isn't exciting because of one feature. It's exciting because of what it represents. The X-Pro series is basically the closest thing we have to a modern film-era shooting experience in a digital body. And Fujifilm knows that. They've built a cult around the emotional side of photography, the feeling. But the X-Pro 3, while beloved, had issues. Some people hated the hidden screen. Others felt the hybrid viewfinder wasn't improved enough. And many photographers complained it was starting to feel too old compared to Fujifilm's other bodies. And that's why the X-Pro 4 matters, because if Fujifilm gets this right, it will become the ultimate daily camera. The one camera you don't leave at home. The one you travel with. The one you shoot life with. And in a world where everyone is trying to shoot content, this camera might be the one that brings people back to pure photography. So let's talk about the biggest question first. What is Fujifilm really planning with the X-Pro 4? The leaks point towards something very specific. Fujifilm isn't trying to make the X-Pro 4 compete with full-frame flagship cameras. They're making it compete with your motivation, with your inspiration. They want you to pick it up and instantly feel like going outside, walking the streets, and hunting moments like photographers used to. Which is why the design is expected to remain classic and rangefinder-inspired, but refined. More premium, more durable, more forever camera energy. Many fans expect weather sealing to be improved further because the X-Pro audience is the kind of audience that shoots in rain, snow, dust, and chaos, and doesn't baby the camera. And if Fujifilm really wants the X-Pro 4 to be iconic, they need to make it tougher without making it bulky. But the real game changer could be the sensor and processor combination. In 2026, Fujifilm is already deep into next-gen imaging tech, and if the X-Pro 4 gets the latest X-Trans sensor, likely a higher resolution, faster readout version, this instantly changes everything. Why? Because the X-Pro series historically wasn't the fastest Fuji camera. It was the emotional camera. But imagine that same emotional rangefinder experience, now with modern autofocus, better low light, and fast response. Now it's not just romantic, it's practical. And one of the biggest expectations is improved autofocus tracking. Fujifilm has been pushing AI subject detection hard. And if the X-Pro 4 inherits advanced face/eye tracking and subject recognition, street photographers will finally have speed without sacrificing the soul. That means less missed moments, less frustration, more keepers, more confidence. Now here's where things get really interesting, the hybrid viewfinder. The X-Pro line isn't famous because of megapixels. It's famous because of how it makes you shoot. And the hybrid OVF/EVF experience is the heart of it. But it's also the hardest part to modernize. If Fujifilm upgrades the electronic viewfinder resolution, refresh rate, and clarity, while keeping the optical viewfinder experience clean and bright, this alone could make X-Pro 4 worth waiting for. Because anyone who has used the OVF in the real world knows what it does to you. Our brain, it makes you feel present. It makes you see beyond the frame. It makes you anticipate action instead of reacting late. And that's why X-Pro users don't just take pictures, they feel like photographers. If Fujifilm enhances that experience, even slightly, it becomes a dream camera again. But let's talk about the feature everyone argues about, the screen. The X-Pro 3 had that controversial hidden display. Some loved it because it forced you to shoot without chimping. Others hated it because it was annoying for quick angles and daily use. Now in 2026, Fujifilm knows something. You can't force every photographer into one philosophy. So the biggest rumor is that Fujifilm will redesign the rear screen approach to balance minimalism with practicality. Not necessarily a fully flip-out vlogging screen, because the X-Pro isn't meant for vlogging, but something better. Something that keeps the clean rangefinder vibe while giving more real usability. If they nail the screen design, they solve the biggest complaint from the X-Pro 3 era and instantly bring back photographers who skipped it. And there's another thing Fujifilm could do. And if they do it, people will lose their minds. The return of small, premium lenses designed specifically for the X-Pro 4. Because listen, X-Pro cameras are at their best with compact primes. Think 23mm, 35mm, 50mm equivalents with character. Fujifilm has amazing lenses, but if the X-Pro 4 launches alongside a new compact WR prime with buttery rendering and classic street focal length, the whole setup becomes unstoppable. The kind of kit you carry everywhere because it's lightweight but powerful. And in the USA market, that matters more than ever. People want premium, but not heavy. Now let's touch the thing nobody says out loud, pricing. The X-Pro series has always been more expensive than people expected because it's built like a luxury tool. And in 2026, with inflation and premium electronics pricing, the X-Pro 4 won't be cheap. But here's why it might still win. Because the target buyer isn't comparing it to an entry-level camera. The buyer is comparing it to the iPhone Pro Max, to Leica Dreams, to the idea of buying one camera and keeping it for 5 to 10 years. And the X-Pro 4 could be that camera. A camera you don't upgrade quickly. A camera you bond with. A camera that becomes part of your identity. And that might sound dramatic, but people who shoot Fujifilm know exactly what I mean. Another major rumor floating around is improved film simulations and JPEG workflow features. Fujifilm is the king of straight-out-of-camera color. And the X-Pro audience loves that because street photography is about speed and mood. If Fujifilm adds new film simulations in 2026, potentially cinematic or vintage-inspired, and improves custom recipe handling, it means the X-Pro 4 could become the ultimate no-editing camera. Imagine shooting all day, coming home, and your photos already look like a finished series. No lictrom, no endless tweaking, just storytelling. For creators and photographers who want a clean life workflow, this is huge. Also, we can't ignore one thing, video. Yes, the X-Pro isn't a cinema camera, but in 2026, every camera is expected to be competent at video. The real question is, will Fujifilm keep video minimal or give it serious upgrades? Even if the X-Pro 4 doesn't go full creator mode, it could still offer higher quality internal recording, improved stabilization options, and cleaner output. Enough for documentary clips, BTS footage, and casual creator work. Not to replace a dedicated video rig, but to make the X-Pro 4 more versatile without killing its identity. But the biggest reason the X-Pro 4 is such a big deal isn't the hardware. It's timing. In 2026, photography is having a weird moment. Cameras are more powerful than ever, but people shoot less intentionally. Social media pushes quantity over meaning. And the X-Pro 4 might be the exact antidote. It could be the camera that reminds people to slow down, to frame with purpose, to enjoy the process, to shoot like it's art again, not a chore. That's why the X-Pro 4 isn't aimed at everybody. It's aimed at people who care, people who notice light, people who chase moments, people who want their camera to feel like an extension of their eye, not an extension of a menu system. So the real question becomes, should you wait for the Fujifilm X-Pro 4? If you want the best spec monster for sports, maybe not. If you want to vlog with a flip-out screen, definitely not. But if you've ever looked at a photograph and thought, I wish I could capture life like that. If you want a camera that makes you want to shoot again, if you want something that feels premium, minimal, timeless, then yes. You should absolutely wait. Because when the X Pro 4 finally drops, it won't just be a new camera release. It'll be a moment. A moment where Fujifilm reminds the world that photography is still emotional, still human, still magical. And here's the crazy part. The more leaks come out, the more it feels like Fujifilm understands exactly what's at stake. They can't afford to mess this up. The X Pro 4 has to be modern enough to justify 2026 expectations, but classic enough to preserve the identity. That is a very hard balance. But if Fujifilm pulls it off, this camera could become the most loved Fuji camera of the decade. The camera you see in coffee shops, subways, airports, streets, the camera that quietly becomes the signature tool of everyday storytellers. So if you've been thinking about upgrading your camera or switching to Fujifilm, or you've been stuck in a creative rut, keep your eyes on the X Pro 4. Because this one doesn't feel like a typical upgrade. It feels like the return of something we've been missing. A camera built for people who shoot with heart. And if you want me to cover every single leak the moment more information drops, including expected launch timing, possible price, and what lenses Fujifilm might release with it, then make sure you hit like, subscribe, and comment X Pro 4 so I know you want the full deep dive. Because trust me, what's coming next could be even bigger than what we've heard so far.